How's it going? This is Making Peace with Emotions. I'm Marshall Bolin. This is the podcast where I share insights that I learned from my therapist, the late Amr Barada. Today, I wanted to talk about how to find somebody who might be of help to you if you are troubled by problems with anxiety and depression and anger and other types of emotions that you're not quite sure how to make peace with. I came up with a list of kind of like the description of a well person. And my advice would be to think about somebody that you know that is somebody that has gone from being troubled to being less troubled, that you admire, and you're curious, like, how did you do that? How did you go from having worse problems to having less severe problems? And ask them what they did. Because there are people like that around. Recovering from emotional problems is not easy, and there are a lot of people who are still stagnating, and they're not really making progress. But then sometimes you do meet somebody who was really having a rough time, and then over the course of years they are having less of a rough time. And maybe that person has a clue as to who you might want to talk to, or maybe they have some kind of advice for how to get on that path that they got on that worked for them. So yeah, I made this list of qualities of what a well person might be like, and maybe you know somebody like this. So here's a few bullet points. They used to be troubled, and over the years you've seen them become less troubled. They used to be perfectionistic and stagnating. In other words, they were kind of like their own worst enemy. But then over the years, you watch them become less perfectionistic and increasingly engaged in things that are meaningful to them. They're more patient and kind and willing to accept that an ordinary life entails suffering. So one of the qualities of an emotional problem is that we try so hard to avoid the ordinary suffering of life that we find ourselves in torment. And there's probably multiple reasons why we act that way, but one reason is we expect that what a normal life is to not have any suffering, to be happy all the time, to be like the kind of person you see in a commercial who's smiling all the time, and they've made it, the kind of person that a motivational speaker would have you believe is a real kind of person, where if you just motivate yourself enough, you'll never have any problems anymore. I'd stay away from somebody who believes that, and I would be surprised if later on in life they didn't burn out. But the kind of person that I would go to look to for advice would be somebody who accepts that life isn't perfect, that people aren't perfect, and that we're all in process. There's not such a thing as a state of complete ill health and a state of complete good health, but that there are trajectories where sometimes you're caught in vicious cycles and double binds where things are getting worse and worse. And other times you find yourself in the opposite of a double bind, where you have lots of options. And none of them are perfect, but you understand that, and you don't blame yourself for those realities. And you find yourself in the opposite of a vicious cycle, where you get better and better. Over the years, you find that the things that were troubling you a lot are troubling you less. So that's the kind of trajectory that you want to get on. And if you are reminded of somebody that you know as I'm saying these things, maybe ask that person, how did you get on that trajectory of better and better? Someone who can be of help to you is also someone who has relapsed with their emotional problems over years. And here's the thing, they've relapsed and they have become more and more willing to relapse. They see the relapses as a necessary part of growing, and they understand that recovering from emotional problems is not something that proceeds in a linear way. It's something that has, 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. And not only are they, okay with relapsing, but they see it as a good thing. And probably you'll notice with somebody, if you meet somebody who is okay with relapsing, their relapses probably tend to be shorter and not as severe. That's what you can look forward to on the road to recovery. And if you see somebody who is following that pattern, there's a good chance that that person knows something and maybe can help you. When you talk to this person, you feel like it's okay to be who you are, and that the ways in which you are trapped are understandable, that your dilemmas make sense. If you can find somebody who can validate and normalize the problems that you have, and they don't give you the sense that, well, you should just do this, or if you'd only do this, or see, I told you so, sort of things. But the opposite of that, they say, yeah, I can see how you're stuck because it's important to you to do something on the one hand, and it's also important for you to do something on the other hand, and you don't know how to bring those things together. And this person can see that you are suffering because you're going back and forth between these 2 extremes. And maybe when you talk to this person, you'll feel less torn between the 2 extremes, and you'll feel more like life really happens in the middle ground between extremes, and that it is okay for you to go a little bit in one direction and a little bit in another direction. And you don't have to be perfectly solving every problem in your life. Ask them how they went from being more troubled to less troubled. And maybe they had the help of a therapist or a coach that they can steer you towards, refer you to. If you think that I might have something of benefit to you, I love to work with clients, and you can reach out to me at marshallbolin@marshallbolin.com. And you can look at my website, marshallbolin.com, to get more of a feel for what I do. Until then, I hope you're well, and I hope you have a good few days or week or couple of weeks, however long it is, before we talk again. All right. See you later.